Hi, this is A.J.B from A.J.B Counseling and Psychotherapy, a private practice located in Manhattan. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to deal with a toxic individual at your workplace. I'd be shocked if I met someone who hasn't had to deal with that cliche toxic individual. Who's this toxic individual that I'm talking about? These are individuals, rare, but they happen, who oftentimes give us scathing remarks, who put other people down. And they do this in a very sneaky way, in a way where a lot of times we're kind of left shocked and stunned as to what just happened. All we know is that I feel bad about myself, but I don't know why. And it can take us a while to figure out, oh wow, whenever this person opens up their mouth, I feel bad. Another thing is that if you're experiencing the toxicity coming from this individual in question, there's a very good chance that all your other coworkers are feeling the same way. So the approach that I'm going to describe to you in this video, it does require that your work situation, your work context has a lot of meetings or places where there are witnesses, where people do see the toxic individual in a group setting. Because what we're going to be doing is we're not going to be engaging in any kind of dialogue or arguments or debate with this toxic individual. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to be publicly pointing out the person's toxicity, the negative impact he or she is having on other people. You're going to be acting like the spotlight, shining the light on their behavior so that others can see it more clearly. By doing this, you're going to wake up your coworkers to a problem, to a problematic behavior, and that's going to then have them join your side to shut down this toxic individual. See, here's the thing about toxic people. The kind of toxic individual that I'm describing in this video is someone whose toxicity is part of their personality. That says a couple of things about them. One is that they probably have really good rationale and arguments for their behavior. So if you were to ever get into a debate with this individual, there's a very good chance you would struggle winning the argument. And there's a reason for that. The reason why they most often have pretty solid arguments for their toxic behavior is because their toxicity is part of their personality. In order to be happy about who we are, we have to have good reasons for the things that we do. So someone who is toxic and it's part of their personality, they will have justifications that make pretty good sense that justify their behavior and their toxicity in a way that makes it seem okay. So I really don't recommend going head to head. As a matter of fact, part of this strategy is going to be to avoid any kind of debate with this individual. One more thing about toxic individuals before I get into how to deal with them is that toxic individuals have the risk of infecting the entire organization. I've seen this in my experience, and it's oftentimes related to companies being desperate at retaining talent, where they'll put up with somebody else's less than ideal behaviors because, well, there's not that many people that will stick around in the company. And the danger lies in the toxic individual converting other people to their way of seeing the world, with their justifications that I mentioned to you before. And so that's part of the reason why we're not going to get involved in the debate, because there's a risk that we could lose it. And before we know it, we become the toxic individuals ourselves. All right, so all we're going to be doing is putting on the spotlight on their toxic behavior. How does that work? Okay, so let's pretend that you're at work and there's some kind of a group meeting, team meeting maybe, where a lot of this toxicity shows up. And this toxic individual says something scathing to you or to your coworker. All you're going to do is say, let's say Mike is the name of a toxic person. All you're going to do is say, Mike, I don't think that was right, what you just said. Or, Mike, that's uncalled for. Or just, Mike, come on. Anything to bring attention to other people around you. Remember, it's not really about convincing them that they're being toxic, because that's kind of a losing battle. It's about convincing people around you. And you won't have to, if they're truly toxic, you won't have to do much convincing. All you have to do is point out that something just went down that's not cool. It's okay if you point it out when this person's being toxic towards you. However, it's twice as effective, twice as good if you point it out when they're being toxic towards one of your coworkers. The reason for that is that, well, you have two people who are upset at one other person's behavior. 2 against 1. Other people see this. Other people see this dynamic that there are two people upset by one person's behavior. As much as I hate to admit it, a lot of us do simplify our way of thinking. And when we see two people being upset at one other person, we start suspecting that those two people probably are correct. It's kind of like we have a tendency towards this kind of democratic way of thinking. So when you point it out on somebody else's behalf, you end up converting people faster. You end up convincing or showing other people faster that this Mike's behavior is problematic. Now, as I mentioned before, toxic individuals do oftentimes have pretty solid arguments backing their toxic behavior. The moment you point out, the moment you put a spotlight on their behavior, you can pretty safely assume that the toxic individual is going to get defensive. And when they get defensive, they're going to come out with their arguments, justifying what they just did. Do not get involved in the argument. All you're going to do is back out. So you're going to point it out and back out. So, you know, the toxic individual might come back at you with an argument justifying why they said something to, I don't know, John, right? Something that was not too nice. And they'll say, oh, well, if I don't say that, if I don't point it out to John, then, you know, blah, 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 and our company goes to shit. All you're going to do at that moment is just say something like, okay. Or if that's what you think. You're not engaging. You're giving these answers that, that indicate that you're not really interested in engaging in this debate. Again, you're not about winning the debate. You're not trying to convince this toxic individual that they're doing something wrong. All you're trying to do is show the rest of the room their toxic behavior. So over time, as you do this, you're going to notice that other people will begin speaking up. Other people will start shining the spotlight on this toxic person's toxic behavior. And as that happens, that's going to start shutting down the toxic person's toxicity. It's also going to inoculate the rest of your team, the rest of your coworkers against the spread of this negativity, this toxicity. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys found it useful. Please leave your comments in the comment section. If there is maybe a variation of a toxic situation you got going on at work, please let me know. I'd love to know about it. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.